This is a talk I gave back in 2022. I'd like to give it again because we talk so much about Samsara and Nirvana that I wanted to talk about it whatsoever. And I hope you have lots of questions for me. Okay, Samsara or Nirvana? Given a choice of two ideas, which would you choose? You might think samsara is nothing but suffering and nirvana is nothing but relief from suffering. Would that be the truth? Can you think of them in a different way? Maybe they aren't as rigidly separated as we think they are. Samsara is a reality created by body, speech, and mind with thoughts, words, and ignorant actions. It may be created by sad, angry, brooding thoughts, or even happy thoughts with expectations and daydreams. All come to fruition as karma, which we live through until we have thoroughly understood it, been transformed for the better by it, and returned it to its source, us. And nirvana is created by the same conditions that produce samsara, and we also inhabit it without clinging to anything. Without clinging, we can rest even among negativity in the world. Nirvana looks like the choice to make if we want to live without suffering, and samsara looks like the reality we want to avoid as much as possible. We've heard that samsara and nirvana are the same, but we divide them in our own mind with expectations of suffering in one, but not in the other. However, we begin to think that only samsara is real because suffering seems real. Nirvana is freedom and we don't feel free, so we think it may just be an ideal, a non-existent reality that we don't have a hope of anything to reach. This is a lot of papers because the letters were made as big as possible. You'd think nirvana was a place to inhabit if we could, but don't have the least hope of attaining. But we think that samsara is so messed up that we have to try to fix it, impossible as it seems. In times of crisis, the sufferings of others seem more real than our own. We want to do something, anything, to try to make one thing better. We stand before a gigantic problem and feel worthless for doing nothing but sitting on a cushion and meditating. But Suzuki Roshi said, when you bow, the whole world bows with you. I think we don't really believe that, although if we did, it would open up a great part of us. Even reading that, we don't understand the power of one person sitting in meditation. We only skim the surface of the full extent of suffering within ourselves. And when we look outside, the suffering of the world we see and hear feels overwhelming. Without investing our true being in fully sitting meditation, we feel like a failure as a bodhisattva. But a bodhisattva doesn't think of suffering as a problem. He or she hears the suffering of others, feels the suffering of others, arouses compassion for those suffering, but doesn't claim the suffering personally, even though we're all living in samsara and experiencing it as well. A bodhisattva, in the midst of personal suffering of any kind, will still bring joy to others and experience joy with others, and yet exist with peace and composure in suffering. A bodhisattva will celebrate the joy of others. In that sense, a bodhisattva exists in two realities equally, samsara and nirvana, but doesn't make much of either one. In reality, we neither need to avoid samsara nor hope for nirvana. Both are not places, they are an expression of us. When we're suffering, then our name is samsara. But when we arouse our mind and stop clinging, our name is then nirvana. We must understand that everything starts and ends with us, and there is no place to reside other than now. As we are with suffering in samsara, or composure in nirvana. Think of it like a big bubble you reside in with everything. There's a red light and a white light. When we're challenged, the red light is on. But when we've had enough, we switch to the white light and calm ourselves with breath and a cup of tea and a piece of cake. When we're rested and ready, we switch on the red light again and jump back into conflict with karma. Eventually, I think we even jump back into samsara joyfully, like a child jumping into an icy lake. We may wonder why we're here and what we're doing. If we're just biding our time looking for something better and waiting to die, or just hungry for something more, then our time feels unfinished and suffering becomes our companion. If we live in mental and emotional longing, then confusion becomes our companion. But if being here alive, even in samsara, with its trials and possibilities, is an inspiration to learn and broaden us through suffering and challenge, then you can say that we're born in the right place at the right time. But when we tire, then through mindfulness we can loosen the bonds of samsara, even in the midst of personal suffering, and joy can arise and permeate us. And we are best at dealing with small things and truly changing ourselves in a total revolution.
So that was the that was actually the next page. Sorry, here you go.
Okay, so can anyone sum up what I just said in simplicities for others to hear? And how about you, Mark? Hey.
It makes me think about, there was a talk I listened to recently where, talking about, in meditation, there might be a sound, and then you focus on the sound, and then maybe you focus back onto the emptiness.
Still frozen.
And then, sometimes there can be more sounds, like you can only kind of focus on one thing at a time, until in samsara there could be chaos, and then maybe it's possible to focus on the chaos as a whole, and it makes me think of the possibility of still being mindful while you're in samsara. Like there can still be chaos and suffering happening, but you can still be in a place of awareness at the same time.
Thank you. How about you?
Well, right now, the best I can do is say something like, we're in nirvana all the time, and it just looks like samsara, or it becomes samsara when we crave that reality be different, or when we set ourselves against reality in the present moment.
Okay, that's a good one. What do you think Suzuki Roshi's word means? His when we bow, the whole world bows. What do you think that means?
Well, I think it's related to when the Buddha woke up and said something like, I, together with all beings, have attained complete realization, or whatever it was he said. That, well, actually, what it made me think of was something I heard you say, which is when we sit zazen, we fight for the whole world.
That's how I feel.
Is it, since we're all, this is a dangerous area to go into, we're all connected, we're all part of one thing. And if we're bowing, of course, the whole world's bowing because we're part of the whole world and they're part of us. And that what we do, even the ceremonies we do here at the altar and in the Zendo stuff, everybody in the world's doing it, they don't know it. But it's because we are all part of the same, whatever you want to call it. And so I bow, they're bowing too.
So does that mean what Mike said? Does that mean that when someone is killing or robbing, that I am killing and robbing?
I would say so, yes.
Damn, that's rough.
That's rough, yes.
Quit's doing it though.
That's why we do this, to counteract that.
Yeah, that's why we're sitting meditation so that you can let that world go.
And I was thinking, that it makes me think about how everyone has Buddha nature, you know?
Yeah,
And it makes me think of even people who have killed and robbed and done horrible things in their life. There's still beauty underneath all that. And, you know,
I think it says here,
You need more, Chris?
Nirvana.
Good.
Okay.
Nirvana is a mind which refuses to be beset by karma, suffering, and unhappy circumstances. So it doesn't mean you don't have them, it means you just refuse to be thrown by them. So if you are in a world of extreme unhappiness, that means that you refuse to be wielded by samsara.
Samsara is when nirvana, but we give into karma.
Yes, and we let karma rule everything we've done.
When I was driving out this morning, I was listening to a Dharma talk by one of Reb's students, and he said that when he brought up this topic in conversation, Reb said something like, Nirvana can only be grasped as samsara. I'm not sure what grasping in this context
I
really
think
translates to.
I think Reb meant that if you don't have a truly understanding, nitty-gritty understanding what suffering is, you can't grasp nirvana. You can't go into the world of nirvana, samsara, and just make the choice, okay, so since I'm here, I choose nirvana. I think he was saying you can't choose nirvana without understanding samsara. And I would agree with him on that.
So we need each to understand the other.
Yeah,
To understand nirvana, you have to have samsara,
yeah.
and vice versa, otherwise you wouldn't know what's going on.
Well, I think
Like
you
the
said
yin
something
and
at the
yang kind of.
beginning about that we only split reality into these two theoretical concepts of samsara and nirvana by thinking of it discursively, that in reality there is no such distinction.
Well, we haven't really touched on the idea that they really are the same thing. There was a case I read about in the Reader's Digest when I was about 18 that made a very good impression on me at the time. A man shot and killed a young son of a woman in a house there. She only had the son to help her to live in the world, and he shot him in some reason, And the woman was very upset about it, but she saw him in court and felt compassion for him because she said she realized for the first time that it wasn't one person killed, but two. So she went to visit him in prison. And again, she was so touched by him because he begged for mercy from her, that he was so sorry. He said it was just a terrible moment. And so she went to see him every week and took him food and things and talked to him, listened to him. And finally, he came up for parole. And she went in to plead for his parole. She said, give him to me and I'll give him room in my home and take care of him. And so they gave him parole. And so he came to live with her. He was young himself. And she took care of him in every way. But he said for the first time he realized what he'd done to her, because she was just having a terrible time making ends meet. So he got a job and he gave all the money to her, and he became her son to replace the money taken. And when I read that, I was so touched by that. And I felt like she lived in hell for a while when her son was killed, until she saw him in court and realized that he was also losing his life. And she felt so sad for him that she started going to prison to visit him. And excuse me, I'm in a very touchy state today. I'm not sure why.
So would you call her then a Buddha in a way, because she was able to forgive him and during his life and change his life,
Yeah,
and it changed both their lives? And so that, it's like that little story, sometimes you'll experience something really bad, but eventually it turns out to be something very good.
yeah. So she turns her life from a terrible situation to the right place at the right time. And so you could say she's a bodhisattva who has learned to turn samsara into nirvana for her and for this young man. I still become emotional when I think of that story, because I did cry when I read it, because it was so moving about how she not only took him in, but she cared for him like a mother.
How many people can do that, That's the thing.
Very few. And when I read about women who say, oh, just give them the worst penalty, I think that's a person who's really divided from mercy or compassion, and it's sad.
And not able to let go of
The suffering, yeah. So that's one where if you understand the suffering, you could say she understood a life with ease and comfort and contentment, because she understood the other one so terribly. That was so terrible for her. But she reached out, and that, for me, people can go and be in soup kitchens all they like, but I think the woman who reached out like that has stepped over the line between the two worlds and brought nirvana into his world. Anyway, I can't talk about it. I don't know why I'm so emotional today. Yes.
I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. Make it about me.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good.
So sometimes I'm really happy, and sometimes I feel really good about it. And then I go, I'm really happy. And then it's like, what starts now is that I've identified, I've attached to this happiness, this nirvana, and then now the opposite can come back.
It can,
Because
if
this
you're not.
happens, yeah, I win the lottery. I feel so happy. And immediately it becomes, after the glow falls away, the reality sets in that everybody is going to take that money away from me. And now everyone's my enemy. So when we attach to nirvana, we always are attaching to the opposite, and vice versa. We become ensnarled and in the sad ways of life. We could become and just caught in that what is there is ever present, and we're rolling in that because we know of another state. We know this other state of peace, but we have forgiven it up because of our attachment to it. So attaching to either one keeps us on the seesaw, back and forth and back and forth. When the real secret of nirvana is not attaching to nirvana.
I don't think that the winning the lottery is nirvana.
It's just used as a key. I haven't won the lottery yet, so I'm just using it.
It's just a trick to involve you even deeper in samsara.
Yes.
Which it does, because as you say, you start worrying about people wanting to use you and take it away from you.
Well, that happens with your nirvana too. Sometimes people take advantage of your nirvana and things happen.
Nobody knows they're in nirvana or advertises it, I think. They may feel contentment and they may feel peaceful, but at the bottom of it, they may be swirling clouds. Nobody ever knows, you know. Like, I was just realizing I'm kind of emotional because it's been a full year since Peter died. And I didn't think I'd get through this year, and I did, and somehow it's worse knowing that it's the last of it. I can't even believe that he's not going to be in 2026.
Well,
So it's really hitting home that I'm at the end of some kind of world in my world.
I know. We all miss Peter. We all do.
Yeah, Mark, there's a book years ago called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. It came out in the 1970s. One of the first books I ever read on Buddhism, but I liked the story that he had at the back of the book, where a guy has this big precious jewel that is, makes him a millionaire, tons of money, stuff like this. And, he's always protecting it and everything. He's happy. He's like, I've got everything I want. And one night a thief comes in and steals it and takes his jewel back to his house, and he notices a note attached to the bottom of it. And the note says, "Thank you for taking this jewel from me. It's become such a burden and I've been so afraid. Now it is yours." So he had nirvana, he thought, and the thief had samsara, so he steals the diamond or whatever it was, thinking he's got nirvana. It's like, now you got a burden. Welcome back to samsara.
Where did you see this?
It was a book written in the 1970s called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. And it was a kind of cheap idea to how to explain Buddhism, stuff about explaining Buddhism. But I love that story at the very end.
It's nice, yeah.
And it's like, it explains everything. You think you're all happy, and it's like, okay, I gotta people are gonna steal this. I gotta put up, guards and all this other stuff, and then some thief takes it. Now it's your burden. I'm done. Thank you.
It's very
Get
ironic.
big guard dogs and eat them out of house and home.
Yeah.
No, I think nirvana is a mind refusing to be beset by karma, or unhappiness. You think the whole world is bowing with you. It's a good practice to remind yourself you're not free from samsara. You're only looking at it from the other direction.
So could we say then that attachment is samsara? Because
Yeah, I think so. Well, because attachment is something I have to work against all the time, because I get attached to everything. Pets, people, things, it's just, I used to think, well, no, I don't get attached. I feel really free. But I realized that I'm attached to everything, to painting, to the cushions, to the bells, to the doors there,
Chris got off the TV again.
Alright.
to everybody that sits
We're
here,
still okay on here.
Screw the TV, we're just gonna do that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
and to everybody on the TV.
Well,
And
not screw them,
everybody-
just screw the TV.
Yeah, let's not attach to
Boy,
that to
Gene.
them.
No, so I get attached to everything, and so I feel like when you bow, the whole world bows, and when I'm attached to everything, the whole world is attached, and that's a horrible thought to feel. So now I think, well, the best thing is just to think when I bow, just to remember that we're one being everywhere. And if I'm attached to it, everybody else would be, but if I'm not, everybody else might not be, but might be anyway, in which case I have to work twice as
Knock
hard.
it off. Mark, you want to say that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that talking about getting attached to everything makes me think of sometimes getting attached to even like Zen practice, you know? Seems important to let that go too. Just, I guess the point for me of letting go and not attaching is to deepen the levels of letting go.
Yeah, I get attached to people way too easily since I was a child, and I was attached to my mother. But still, I think we have it in ourselves to be free of everything, not by being free of suffering, for example, even if you're contented and free from suffering, if someone you care about has a hard time, you would have a hard time in seeing it and feeling it for them. So I think the thing is not to think of samsara or nirvana, just to think when you're in the midst of suffering, you're in the red light room. And when you're not, you're in the white light room. And you don't have to make a big deal about either one because whichever one you're in, you have to go through the other one to get out of the building. That was from a talk I gave called Red Light, Blue Light, about people, how different they look when they're in a red light or a blue light in a room. And yet we still know it's them, no matter what they look like. We still have no problem identifying who they are. Peter laughed about that one when he read it. I forget what he said though, which is too bad. It says nirvana is a mind that lets everything pass without making trouble about it. That opens a breadth of spirit in meditation, and your world becomes vast and impervious to suffering. And we step over the troubled pieces of mind and body without causing harm anywhere. And we can rest in that space until we're ready to go back into nirvana because we're bored. And so it's like jumping into a icy lake for children. They know it's going to be miserable, but they do it anyway because it looks like so much fun.
Would we say that nirvana is like the ultimate innocence and
I don't think it's innocent.
naivete in some
Yeah,
ways?
that's what that's what Reb Martin, he said you can't do that without
Ah.
touching on
Onto
samsara.
you have to know
You have
samsara.
to know it intimately. You can't know it just with your mind and books. You have to really walk through the red light room. You really have to understand the suffering of clinging to someone and losing that person, like a mother for a child or something. but you have to understand gut level what samsara feels like.
Sort of let it permeate us so thoroughly that we sort of forget ourselves.
Yes. So, and it says when you do that, you let everything pass over us, take on us with them, as it were. We can rest in that vast space and find our composure as long as we need it. That's the next talk I wanted to give. It's called the Heart Mind Library, which is the great vast space we have inside.
Yes, I think you should.
I can't leave us feeling terrible.
Yeah. Leave it an up note.
I could say I'm attached to Christmas, because I love it so much.
I also love Christmas.
Well, it's time in my family, there were 7 of us all together, that everyone came home for Christmas. So we'd have a big, loud, noisy family, which was enjoyable. If you could make yourself heard over them, you'd be lucky.
Yeah.
Shall we make some noise here in the Zendo and do service?
We could do that.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you for the kindness of catching the glass.
Yeah.
He's gonna watch you now. Look at that.
Those cat-like reflexes.
What it is my left hand is still weak.
Oh,
Weaker than so if I don't concentrate on it, it forgets what it's doing. My right hand doesn't need that kind of concentration, but the left hand does.
Boy, she made you jump.
It's like, I'll just go. Okay. And it's Orvano. May our
May our intention equally
Good
penetrate
penetrate every being in space,